In the spirit of highlighting the plight, I'm going to talk about the worst things about being allergic to cold. Hello, welcome back to Allergy Awareness Week. This is number 6 in this 7-day series. I don't like to complain all the time, so this week's series is a mixture of hopefully helpful how-to videos that indirectly highlight the extra steps that we have to go through to do the same things as people without allergies. So ordering food, buying a meal deal, existing outside, all of that jazz. If you follow me on social media, specifically Facebook, you might have seen that I run a Facebook page called Life Allergic to Cold, and I'm doing a picture series, Cold Urticaria Problems, which is highlighting the plight of cold allergy sufferers. But this video I just want to go a little bit more in depth on the absolute worst things about being allergic to cold. Number 1 is not being believed. That's annoying for everybody, right? If like something's wrong and someone says, "Oh, I don't believe you." Well, you must be exaggerating. You can't be allergic to cold. You could only be allergic to proteins. That's my worst one. That really irritates me because you can be allergic to ibuprofen and that's not a protein, but nobody kicks off about that. Only when they want to tell me to put a jumper on, but that's next. So when an average person doesn't believe me, it's annoying, but there's no real harm coming from it. So they just go and say, "Oh, this person online is allergic to cold and I don't think that that's possible." That's fine. That doesn't affect my life or my body. But when medical professionals don't believe me, that is a whole different story. So in a medical environment, when the doctor or a nurse doesn't believe me, there can be serious and dangerous consequences. If you've seen in my previous videos, I talk about being stuck with a cold IV. We don't do that. No. I've been stuck with a cold IV before because a doctor thought I was just being hysterical and, oh, it must be an anxiety thing. Just did not believe that cold urticaria exists and can be such a dangerous issue. And then he was shocked for some reason when I came out in full-blown hives all over my body, my skin started to puff up, I was red everywhere and I couldn't breathe. He then suddenly believed me. Did not get an apology though. Another thing that is a real struggle being allergic to cold is unwanted comments about my Vog mask. I have covered this briefly in other videos. Just walking past the street at least once a day, I get one person that just needs to make a comment on it. It's usually, "What the f***," followed by something else. It's usually, "What the f***, is the air that polluted? What the f***, you look like you're dressed for nuclear warfare." It's gonna take a bit more than cotton to do that, but okay. It's unnecessary. It's just annoying when people just look at your face and their first reaction is, "What the fuck?" It does get grating sometimes because it's just a piece of cotton. I'm just trying to breathe outside. Can we just chill for 5 minutes, please? All I'm trying to do is breathe. Why does that bother you? And why does it bother you to the extent that you have to say vile things at me while I'm sat on the bus? Check that out. People act like me wearing a mask is the most inconvenient thing in the world to them and having such a huge effect on their life that I just shouldn't be doing it. When it's just a few layers of cotton that's allowing me to breathe without difficulties and without pain. If I can do that, why shouldn't I? Especially when it's something so simple as just putting some material over my face. One of the other worst things about being allergic to cold is people thinking they know the answers. A lot of the time this is done with the best intention, so it's, "Have you tried this antihistamine? Have you tried this treatment?" And that is the sort of advice that I happily take. I like that advice because you're showing that you care and that you're trying to help. That's wonderful. The advice I don't like is when people think that moving to Australia or putting on a jumper is going to be the end of my problems. Cold things still exist in Australia, air conditioning still exists in Australia. Putting a jumper on doesn't solve the problem. It might stop maybe my arms coming into contact with a cold stimulus, but it's not going to stop the airway problems, it's not going to stop the rash on my face, it's not going to stop other exposure, and it's not about being cold, it is about exposure to cold, which is a hard one to grasp. I appreciate it took me a while as a cold urticaria sufferer. Putting on a jumper and moving to Australia is definitely not going to solve my problems. I'm still allergic under the jumper and I'm still allergic in Australia. Being allergic to cold is about more than just weather. It's about putting on a lotion that's slightly too cold, it's washing your hands in cold water by accident, it's drinking a cold drink, it's sweat drying on your skin, it's the water drying on your skin after a shower, it's your tears, cold breeze every now and then, even in summer, it's air conditioning, it's all of these things, and it's not just going to be fixed by warmer weather, sadly. Sure, in a warmer environment I might be able to take the mask off outside, but then when I move inside to a cold room where it's been air conditioned, the mask is going to have to go straight back on because I still react. And if I can't do cold, I can't cool down if I get too hot. I've mentioned that my skin will react to the sweat drying and cooling on my skin. That is a massive problem, especially if I want to go to the gym. I never want to get to the gym, who am I kidding? But it used to happen when I used to play wheelchair basketball. I used to get itchiness just from working out. So if I've got jumpers on and I get too hot, I'm going to be sweating and I'm going to take the jumper off, and then I'm still going to react to the colder temperature. You can't just overheat, that's bad, that's not an option. Another one of the worst things about being allergic to cold is having to rely on daily medication. I know in my vlogging with Cold Urticaria I've talked about how amazing fexofenadine has been and how much it has improved my symptoms and my quality of life and how much I can do when I go outside. Link that up there. But it's not ideal having to take a medication every day. There's been times where I've just been away from my meds, even though I talked about in my Cold Urticaria must-haves. I always have spares. Sometimes I just forget, or sometimes I run out, or my alarm doesn't go off and I forget, or it's just, for some reason or another, I may have forgotten. Having to take a pill daily just to go outside, it's not my favourite thing. While it may reduce the severity of the reactions, it isn't magic, and I do still react. My existence outside depends on me having enough of these pills and taking it all the time, and that might not seem like such a big deal, but with fibro fog it can be a challenge. But I'm so grateful for it, don't get me wrong on that front. They also come with side effects. Like, I was very lucky in the fact that most of my side effects from fexofenadine have gone away, but for some people they don't, and that's quite hard as well when you need to take them so you can live outside, but then you have a constant headache or you're constantly drowsy. Not ideal. And the last one I'm going to talk about is it's actually quite painful. The urticarial rash is so itchy that it borders on painful just in itself. That's without even touching it. And then you have the added pain from scratching, when you might scratch too hard or scratch too much, or when it's so itchy you can't not scratch. And the result of scratching absolutely is painful, especially if you have dermatographia as well. That's not ideal, it's just more hives from the scratching. And in extreme cases you can actually cause permanent nerve damage by scratching too much. Usually if you have some sort of neuropathy where you feel less and you don't realise how much you're scratching, that can be a problem. The airway implications, so the inflammation and the wheezing, that's incredibly painful. I know I talk about wheezing a lot, but I don't actually talk about how much that hurts. It feels like an elephant is standing on my chest just from 5 minutes outside. And then the wheezing. The wheezing isn't actually the problem, it's the pain of the wheezing. Sinus pain from exposure to cold. My fog mask hurts my ears. If I wear it for a long time, it hurts my ears, especially if I have my hair down, and it's usually getting caught in that. I have a lot of earrings as well, which is kind of my fault. The added pain and bulkiness on my ears of wearing glasses too, that's painful. I'm wearing a hearing aid on top of that, that's painful. Like, my poor ears, especially when my ears get cold as well, they get very painful. As I talked about in my last video, when fitting a fog mask, it does have a strip of metal that goes across the nose. If I wear that for a long time, or if it's too tight or badly fitting, that really hurts. And on bad mental health days, it's psychologically painful as well. You know, sitting inside, longing to go outside and socialise with your friends and just go and do something normal is quite painful, knowing all of the extra steps that you have to go through for that. Or if you have a day where you're just like, sod it, I'm not doing that, I'm gonna go out and I'm just gonna live, that will backfire. Don't do that, because I've done that too many times and it's not good. And also people's comments as well. Like, I'm not easily upset, that's not a challenge. It does sometimes bug me that people get so stressed out about the way I'm managing my condition on a bad mental health day. That will upset me, but just like reflecting on it, not my favourite thing. And this is all separate from the chronic pain disorder, if you can even imagine separating the two out. When I have a bad fibromyalgia day, an urticarial rash on skin that is experiencing that horrible allodynia pain, where just a tiny breath on it, or like the fabric of your clothing gently brushing over your skin. When that feels like fire, imagine what that feels like with an urticarial rash on top of it. And if I go out with my hair up or my ears exposed, it feels like somebody is shoving pins into my eardrums. It's so much more than a bit of an itch and a bit of a wheeze. I feel like a lot of people just don't get that. Those are my worst things about being allergic to cold. Don't forget to like this video, drop a comment in with your worst things about being allergic to cold, subscribe to my channel and ring the bell to get notified every time I post a video, and for this week that's every single day. See you!